In the last series of messages, if you have not been here, we've taken, I've lost track, I think it's 10 or 12 weeks, and we've been looking at what it means to grow in our relationship with God, to grow in our faith. And all series, I've been up here with this Buckeye tree that we bought, and it was in this pot, and we were talking about, if you put it in the right environment and you keep water on it and sun on it, it's going to grow, and it could grow up to 100 feet with a 50-foot spread and bear fruit after 7 years and everything. And I've been up here holding this thing, but we haven't been watering it, and it hadn't been the sun, and it was outgrowing its environment. And so it was really, it wasn't like my master plan at the beginning to let the tree die in front of you, but it just kind of happened. So we thought, you know what, there needs to be an intervention. Some things need to be dealt with. So I went over to Northwest Campus this week, and Dustin Poole, our campus pastor, Northwest, and we dug a ditch, and we planted that thing. Go ahead and bring up that picture. Yeah, so, it's evidence. That thing is now in an environment that it can grow. And we've had people really concerned about it because they're like, wait a second, this tree is planted too close to the building, and the roots are going to grow into the foundation, which is that's another sermon in and of itself. But, the roots are going to grow in the foundation. What's going to do? So we've talked to the botanists, and the botanists have told us that you can, after 2 years, you can uproot it and move it to a new space, which is also another sermon in and of itself. But don't worry about the tree. We're going to take good care of it, and it's going to flourish and grow. And what we've been looking at is saying, let's take this analogy and look into our lives. We've been talking about spiritual disciplines. We've been talking about habits and things that we want to do, not just for the 10 weeks of this series, but over the long haul. And looking at these habits, not from a legalistic standpoint, like we're trying to earn God's favor or trying to make God happy or trying to do something to earn his grace. What we're really talking about is doing things habitually that will help our root system to go deep and help us to be transformed into the people that God has called us to be. Today, what I want to talk to you about is actually the fertilizer in this whole deal. And I got a bag of fertilizer here, 14 pounds of fertilizer. And the fertilizer of the Buckeye tree, the fertilizer of your life is faith. I want to talk to you about faith. And faith is something that I think causes many people to be confused because maybe you've taken a step of faith in your life. The substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And you say, I really hoped for it. I couldn't see it, but I believed for it, and it never happened. And so people many times become very confused about faith. And today I want to make sure that we bring some clarity to the fertilizer of faith. By the way, when you get this faith component, you're going to find that this is going to help you to grow faster. It's going to help you to grow stronger. It's going to help you to go even beyond your own potential. We've been talking about things like fasting and prayer. We've been talking about things like Lectio Divina, which is reading God's word conversationally. We've been looking at things like worship and saying, worship is not me being the musician. It's me waking up to the fact that I'm just the instrument and letting God play through me, whatever it is, whether I'm teaching a third grade class, whether I'm being a mom or a dad, whatever thing I'm leading, whatever thing I put my hand to. I'm not the musician. I'm just the instrument. He's going to play through me. We've been talking about all this stuff, and faith is something that no matter what we're doing is a massive component that will fertilize and help us to grow into what God's called us to be. Now, I'm going to start today. I brought a rocking chair up here. I think rocking chairs, they need to make a comeback. Because, everyone used to have rocking chairs. Rocking chairs are amazing. And now you almost never see a rocking chair unless you go to Cracker Barrel. Rocking chair, you gotta love the rocking chair. Now the rocking chair is going to be symbolic today for the fact that as we live our lives, at some point, if we live long enough, you end up on a rocking chair on some porch somewhere. All right, this is where you end up. And this is going to symbolize the end of our lives, right? You get to the end of your life, you're looking back over your life, and you're thinking about everything you've done. You're going to think back on decisions that you made. You're going to look back, frankly, probably with some regrets. You'll look back with some advice you wish you could go and give yourself, some things you wish you could do over again. It's kind of the rocking chair concept that was the origin of Stephen Covey, in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he says, hey, one of the habits of people who are highly effective is they begin with the end in mind. So they think about the rocking chair, they think about the porch that they want to be on, and they think about the end, and they start there, and then they build a bridge to where they want to go. And I would say I agree with that, but I want to be very specific about what we mean by the end in mind, beginning with the end in mind. You see, what we tend to do when we think about the end in mind is we think about where we want to go and what we want to do and how we want to get there. But what I want to encourage you with today is instead of asking the question, where do I want to be? Ask the question, who do I want to be? Our obsession with the end is I want to end up where I want to end up. We're so focused on the where and the how. And yet faith is trusting God with the where and the how, and just taking care of the who. Saying, I want to become who God has called me to be. Listen, don't predetermine where you want to go or what you want to do. Predetermine who you want to be. Now, we live in a generation where everyone's a dreamer. Dreamers, everybody's a dream. What's your dream? What's your dream? What's your dream? Everywhere you go, it's like, come on, start with the dream. Begin with the end in mind. What's your dream? What's your dream? What's your dream? And all the dreams are about where you want to go. So everybody's simultaneously dreaming and coming up with ideas. And then we've got this really kind of like pop cultural, like, man, if you can dream it, you can be it. And shoot for the moon. And if you miss, you land among the stars, which isn't even scientifically correct, but whatever. And honestly, we get this sort of ramp up of like, what's your dream? What's your just dream? Everybody just dream. Everybody's got a dream. And yet we have to realize, like, as people of faith, as men and women of God, we have to know the difference between a God-given dream and a self-centered hallucination. Because it's not the same thing. You need to understand, this faith is not a matter of you going to a whiteboard and coming up with the craziest thing you can come up with and the most grandiose, oh man, if I could just hear my dreams, and you put it up there, and then you spend your time in faith begging God to co-sign to your self-centered hallucination. That is not faith. And that's why a lot of people become very confused about faith, because they go, oh, it's a substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. And so their starting point is their dream. And then they think that God is just the conduit to fulfill their dream. And God didn't sign up for that deal. He never made that deal. You know, we're really good as Christians. We're really good at quoting half of a verse. That's what we do really. That's what we do really well. We quote things like in Romans 12, it says, don't be conformed to this world. Keep going. But be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Keep going. Then you will know God's will for your life, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Yeah, we just stop at, don't be conformed to this world. No, he says, don't be conformed to the world. Don't let the world suck you into their culture. Don't let the world suck you into their mindset. He said, no, don't be conformed to the world, but be transformed, morphed by the renewing of your mind that happens when I fast and pray, and when I Lectio Divina, and when I worship, and when I'm in his presence. He's the vine, I'm the branches. I'm transformed by the renewing of my mind. Then you'll know his will. Then he'll give you a dream. We spend all of our time coming up with a dream and then begging God to bless it, instead of asking God for his dream, which is already blessed. So we're good at this half verse stuff. You know what other verse we're real good at? Half versing. Romans 8:28. God causes all things to work together. God causes all things to work together. Your friend's going through something, or you're going through something, and you just Romans 8:28, devil. God causes all things to work together. Keep reading. Because you need to understand that promise is not for everybody. God causes all things to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. God doesn't just cause all things to work together for the good of anybody who's doing their own thing. God doesn't cause it to work out when you're living according to your dream, your self-centered hallucination, and now you expect God to just work all things together. You can claim Romans 8:28 all you want, but if you're not living according to his purpose and doing his plan, you don't get the promise. Yeah, I didn't get any amens on that one. Oh yeah, it's the last week of Master's Plan. We're gonna have a little talk today. I brought the rocking chair up. So we got to know the difference. Because God does have a dream for your life, but it's his dream, it's not yours. It's interesting because when Jesus gathered his disciples together, he gathered a group of men who actually had self-centered hallucinations. They already knew. In fact, they knew what they wanted, where they wanted to end up, the end in mind. They had the end in mind, the where and the how. They had all that predetermined before they ever met Jesus. They were living under Roman oppression. They had a promise and a dream of being a holy nation and being their vision of end in mind was to become a world power. So when Jesus came, they're like, oh, good. Now we are going to be at the top of the global food chain. We've seen other nations oppress us. We've been slaves to other nations. We've been subservient. And one day a Messiah is going to show up and we will be at the top of the food chain, and our race and our culture and our skin color and our all of our stuff, our rituals will all be at the top, and we just need a leader. We just need a leader. And Jesus shows up, and then he calls the disciples, and they see him do miracles, and they're watching him walk on water and defy the laws of physics. He turns water into wine and changes the molecular structure of water into wine. He takes 5 loaves and 2 fish and feeds 5,000. They watch him literally die on the cross and come back to life and all this stuff. I mean, they just miracle, just wild stuff. Peter, the Apostle Peter, who was, probably the alpha dog type of personality. He was kind of a big mouth, run his mouth all the time, but somewhat bold. At one point, they see Jesus walking on water in the middle of a storm, and Peter's like, "Oh man, I want to come out there. Can I come out there?" And Jesus says, "Come on out." And so Peter takes a step onto water, which is like, what? That's crazy. How many of you know there is a thin line between faith and stupid? There really is. I mean, there's a storm going on, and you're gonna step out of the boat and start walking on water. And the only reason he was able to do it was because Jesus said, "Come on out. Come on out." The difference between faith and stupid is this God's plan or is it yours? If that was his plan, you're going to the bottom of the sea, sir. You're gonna sink right down. And the difference between faith and stupid, and by the way, when you step out in faith, there's a lot of people that are gonna think you're stupid.
That's right.
Through their eyes, you look like an idiot. Through their eyes, you're stepping on water. What are you thinking about? Wait, you're gonna get married again? Wait, you're switching careers again? You're doing in vitro again? You're gonna trust again? What? There's a thin line between faith and stupid. I gotta go, Lord, is Jesus at the center of this dream? Is God calling me out? Is God saying, yeah, no, this is my idea, this isn't your idea, come on out of the boat, come walk on this water. I'm inviting you out into faith. And so the disciples had experienced a life of watching Jesus doing these miracles. And then Jesus says to them, listen, I know you want me with you all the time physically, but it's actually better if I leave. He said, if I leave, I'll send the Spirit that raised me from the dead, and he's gonna empower you. And now you're gonna walk your thing out. You're gonna live God's dream for your life. You're gonna take the step, not self-centered hallucination, a new thing, a new wave of what God wants to do. So Jesus leaves and he sends the Spirit. They go to Jerusalem and they begin praying. Now understand, at this point, they're still totally geared in to a self-centered hallucination. They think that God's plan is for them to be the new dominators of planet Earth, to be preeminent and supreme, top of the food chain. And so they go to Jerusalem and they begin to pray and they begin to seek and ask God, okay, Lord, send the Spirit. The Spirit shows up and the craziest thing happens. As they're praying, they begin to speak in other people's languages. So in this text, we know they began to speak in other tongues. They began to speak in other languages. They weren't speaking gibberish, and they weren't speaking a heavenly language. They were speaking in Acts 2, an earthly language. And this is what the Spirit was doing, was in Acts chapter 1, Jesus says, look, you're gonna receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you. Here's my dream. You're gonna go to Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth. Again, in their mind, we're gonna be conquerors of the world. No, actually, I'm gonna give you a heart for people that aren't like you. Actually, you're gonna take the gospel to people who aren't like you because I'm willing that none would perish. And so they begin to speak in each other's languages, and while they're thinking that now's the time that we are going to be empowered to dominate, all of a sudden, the Spirit of God is leading them into the plan of God, which is, no, instead of my culture, my skin color, my people being it, he said, no, you're gonna speak her language. Yeah, you're gonna speak his language. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna begin to prepare you to go into places that, frankly, you may not even really want to go. And so the Spirit causes, no Rosetta Stone needed. No, just a new language. All of a sudden, you're speaking their language. I'm speaking the language of a culture I don't know anything about. I'm speaking the language of a people I don't know anything about. Why? Because the Spirit is doing a new thing. Everybody's like, whoa, that wasn't our self-centered hallucination. That's not what we thought. We thought we were gonna come in on chariots and everything and kind of take over, and then we were gonna rule. Remember, the disciples were arguing, who's gonna be on your right hand? Who's gonna be on your left hand? Who's gonna be the Secretary of State? Who's gonna be the Secretary of Defense? Which one of us who's gonna get the corner office? That was their concern. I was like, that's a self-centered hallucination. Yeah, we don't just begin with the end in mind, come up with the dream and put God on the hook for it. We don't do that. What we do is we get in the flow of the Spirit. What are you saying? What are you doing? And so he was doing this brand new thing. I'm gonna do something that's not normal for you. I'm gonna have you care about a culture that you're not familiar with. I'm gonna have you care about people you have no connection to because I'm willing that none would perish. And so I want you to take the gospel and proliferate the gospel to the ends of the entire earth. It's the new thing I'm doing. It's the new thing I'm doing. So in the middle of this, there's chaos because no one understands what's going on. And so Peter stands up, and Peter steps up and basically does a Bible study in the middle of the tongues and the people speaking in different languages. And he begins to quote from the prophet Joel. It says in Acts 2:17-18, it says, in the last days, God says, I will pour out my Spirit upon all people. Now, I know that wasn't your self-centered hallucination. It was kind of about you, but that was self-centered. I want to do it for all people. I want to do something different. Then he says, your sons and your daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams. Verse 18, in those days, I will pour out my Spirit even on my servants, men and women alike, and they will prophesy. You see, now here comes God's dream to the surface. Romans 8:28, those who are called according to his purpose, this is his purpose. And so he says, here's what's gonna happen. It's gonna be unnatural. It's gonna be supernatural. Here's what happened. The old men, they're gonna start dreaming again. Because people, once they've kind of been there, done that, retired, we'll leave the dreams of the young guy. We'll leave the dreams of the young ladies. He said, no, man, when I start pouring out my Spirit, Pawpaw is going to begin having dreams. And it ain't dementia. No, it ain't dementia. It's the Spirit of God showing him something. He's going to go, the young guys are going to go, where'd you come up with that? I'm talking to somebody today who you think you're over the hill. You think just because your career's over, it's just time to play golf and sit on the porch and hope to catch a guppy or two. Nah, Papa. God's got a dream he wants to put in your mind. Not a self-centered hallucination. It's not time to hunker down and wait. It's time to say, what are you saying to me, God? I'm still of sound mind and body. I may not have the energy I used to have. My bones may be a little more brittle than they used to be. I may fall asleep earlier than I used to fall asleep. My bladder may be on the fritz. But you know what? That doesn't mean I can't still dream. He said, you know what? He goes, this is how cool it's going to be. Your old folks are going to be pushing young kids. Like, whoa, Pop, Mimi, can you slow down, Mimi? Slow down, Mimi. He said, I'm going to put the dream in the heart of a person that thought their dreaming days were over. Well, he said, and then I'm going to do something else that's supernatural. The young men will see visions. Young people are dreamers. But visions, he's like, no, I'm going to cause the young people to be wise beyond their years. I'm going to cause the young people to see things beyond their experience. They hadn't been there, done that. I don't know how to get there, but I'm going to show it to them done. And then we're going to have an intersection between the two, and the young and the old. Usually the old go over here and the young go over there, and we just sort of settle into our preferences of style and our preferences of volume and our preferences of clothing and our preferences, and we do, and it's about us. That's self-centered hallucinations of what I want from me. He said, no. When my spirit shows up, the young and the old are going to be, it's all going to come together. He goes, and the servants are going to prophesy. He goes, it's going to be an amazing move. And here's Peter, he's standing in the middle of this, and everyone's like, what is going on? Why am I speaking someone else's language? And he's like, because this is what the Spirit is doing right now. Okay, now, the biggest obstacle to all this in Acts 2 is the obstacle we have today, which is our self-centered hallucinations. The disciples, they didn't really want to go there. They keep fighting it. Keep reading. It took an audible voice from heaven. And Peter's talking back going, no, Lord, I ain't going to do that. That's how resistant, because the self-centered hallucination can be a dream. I want you to change your thinking. I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to challenge you to change your thinking, not because I want you to, but because I don't want you to live in what you think is faith, and it's really you begging God to do your thing. I got a better plan. Ask him for his thing. Don't get so caught up in where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. Focus on who you will become, and then you'll end up there. One of the scariest things about starting with where is you might actually get there where you predetermined to go. That's a big problem. If you predetermine where you want to go, you might end up in the wrong spot. You might successfully get where you've been trying to get, and the whole time be standing in this place going, what am I doing here? I'm in the wrong spot. And I can tell you straight up, if wherever you end up, if it's not where God wanted to take you, you could be standing at the top of a 3-story yacht looking around going, what am I doing here? I'm not in the right place. Stop trying to predetermine where you will go and how you will get there and everything you want to do. And just say, Lord, you take me where you want me to go. I'll just take care of who I become. Some of you have so much anxiety. So many people have anxiety around, where am I going to get? Where am I going to go? Am I going to get there soon enough? Am I going to get there fast enough? Will I ever get there? And you just need to exhale and go, you know what? God's got this. I've told some stories about my family, and some of you know my story and some of you don't, but my family, my wife and I have 3 children. We have our daughter Ella, who's 10 years old, and she's like a little grown up, and kind of precocious and everything. And then we have 2 boys that are both on the autism spectrum. And in past messages, I've talked about what that journey's been like, and it really challenged me as a father. Fathers are hardwired to protect and provide. I know we got our families here, stand up with their families, and dads, you just want to take care of stuff. You want to be the provider, the protector. No one ever had to teach a young man to want to defend the people he loves. Go back to, when you were 8 years old and somebody talked about your mama, You were like, I mean, no one said, you should get really upset if someone talks about your mom. You're just like, didn't matter who they were. They're getting dealt with, and going to get that hand sandwich, at 8 years old. And so as a dad, my sons, have gone through things that I couldn't protect and I couldn't provide a solution. And so, not that I'm mad at God or anybody, but it was tough. And dealing through those emotions and everything. And I had a conversation with God recently. And it went something like this. It's like, God, my boys have special needs. And God's like, so do you. And then God is like, but you have special gifts. And so do they. Greg, you're frustrated because you're trying to make your boys more like you. But now you know how I feel because I'm trying to get you to be more like them. It's interesting, my boys love school. So they're the only kids that are depressed right now that it's summer. We get tons of help from their teachers and everything at school. And in fact, they could be throwing a tantrum in the morning, won't put on their clothes, won't eat their food. And as soon as they hear the school bus, they're like, the bus. Hudson goes, the bus. And they're just like, whoosh, 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 throw on their backpacks and they run out. They love the bus. And so what we've named our family vehicle, we got this big boat of a family vehicle, and we call it the car bus. It's the car bus. And so this is what I realize about my boys. My boys have ridiculous confidence in their father. Ridiculous confidence. I mean, I'll be like this. Hey, boys, get in the car bus. Doesn't matter what they're doing. Boys, get in the car bus. They're like, they just go straight for the car bus every time. They've literally never asked, where are we going? They don't ask. When I was 7, I was taking my parents into the third circle of hell. Every time we went on a road trip, where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going? Are we almost there? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Hey, where are we going? Anybody know where are we going? Are you sure? Dad, are you going the wrong way? Should we pull over and ask for directions? So my father was like, will you shut up and just trust that I'm gonna get, no, I don't know, Dad. It looks like we're going down the wrong road. My boys have literally never one time asked, where are we going? You know what's going on in their little brains? Hey, we don't know where we're going, but I bet there'll be food there. That's what they're thinking. It's just crazy because everywhere they go, we end up getting food. We might be going to Mimi and Papa's. I know there'll be food there. We might go to IKEA. I know they got pizza there. They think IKEA is like an amusement park. My kids are like, this place is magic. There's living rooms everywhere. They probably think it's one of our homes. In my father's home, there are many rooms. They think Meijer is a giant donut shop. They have no inhibitions. They just know wherever this thing stops and Dad says, get out, we're gonna get out and we're gonna follow him and we will be fed. And you know what? You know what's gonna happen? It doesn't matter how late we're out. Because if we're out too late and our bodies can't take it and we fall asleep, the craziest thing happens. We always end up in our own bed. We always end up in it's just crazy. Wherever I fall asleep, I could fall asleep over at someone else's house. I wake up in my own bed. I fell asleep in my car seat. I don't know how. Dad did it again. He found out how to get me in bed. The other day I come in, Miles is sleeping on the hardwood floor. You know what he did? He woke up in his bed. They don't worry about bacteria. They're not even too concerned about gravity. I promise you never one time have they stressed about the bill. And here I am with all my sophistication, praying that God will make my boys more like me. Oh, God, are you going to provide? Oh, Lord, where's the money going to come from? Oh, God, how are we going to get there? Oh, are you sure, Lord? Lord, here I am. It's me again, standing in the need of prayer. Not my mother, not my father, but it's me, oh, Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Are you up there? Can you still hear me? Are you going to show up when I need you? Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, I need your help. Oh, Lord. It's like God's looking down like, will you be more like them? Will you just shut up and get in the car bus and trust that I know where we're headed? Stop worrying about where you're gonna go and how you're gonna get there and is there gonna be enough food when we get there. You're gonna wake up in your bed, son. I got this. Will you just trust that I know where I'm going and I know what I'm doing? Just get in your seat, shut up. Don't ask when we're gonna get there. Don't even ask where we're going. I will take you where I want you to go. Have I not proven myself? I know I'm talking to somebody. I know I'm talking to somebody. You're in a season right now, you don't like where you're at and you're not sure where you're going. You don't like where you're at and you're not sure where you're going. And so you're so full of anxiety and you get up every day full of fear. And God says, will you just get in the car bus and be quiet? I promise there'll be food there. And when your flesh falls apart, you're gonna wake up in your own bed. I got this thing. That's faith. Faith isn't writing out a big check and hoping God cashes it. Faith is saying, I'm on this ride and I trust the one who's behind the wheel. I trust who's leading this journey. God, I'll go wherever you want. I don't care what porch I end up on. I know there will be a rocking chair there when I need it. And I'll rock on that porch and I know wherever you take me, that's gonna be the right spot. I'm not gonna start with the end in mind and try to get to where I want to go. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to become the person that God wants me to be. That's why I'm going to fast and pray. That's why I'm going to give. That's why I'm going to worship. That's why I'm going to go deep in relationships. That's why I'm going to deepen the conversations in prayer. Transformation, renewing the mind. Then I'll know His will for my life. I'll know the difference between self-centered hallucination that I've been trying to force onto God, and I'll just receive the God-given dream for my life. Sign up for that life and trust God. Listen, I know there are some of you, I'm gonna invite the band to come out. We're gonna sing this song in a moment, Hindsight. Hindsight. We just sang it a moment ago, and I'm not sure if you really zeroed in on the lyrics yet, but it says, my God isn't finished yet. If He did it before, He'll do it again. He says, if my past could talk, here's what it would say. My God isn't finished yet. I'm not gonna worry about what comes next. But I know that my God will make a way, that God will take care of it. So listen, as you sing this, I want you to sing it in faith. I want you to trust God. I know you're not where you want to be, but I want to tell you, faith is believing that the Jesus that saved you will sustain you. The Jesus that saved you will sustain you. And regardless of where you are right now, you got to pick yourself up and dust yourself off and wipe the tears out of your eyes and put some steel in your spine, because you're not stopping right here. This thing is in motion. God's behind the wheel. You're gonna be okay. So listen, if you have even a fraction, if you have an ounce of faith left in you, you ought to stand up on your feet right now. You ought to lift your hands up to God. You ought to throw your head back and open up your mouth. I'm talking about over at Northwest Campus. They ought to hear you on Old Henderson Road. Let the people of God lift up your voice, lift up your hands. Come on, let's sing together.